Hello, everyone, and welcome to this all-new episode of the All New 52 podcast, the show where me, Joe, and my friend Caleb talk about comics. We got a very special episode this week. Me and Caleb have our first comics. I have two because I'm pretty sure they were in a trade, collected, or something together. There's backstory that I'm sure we'll get into, but we have Spider-Man Team Up, Storm Change the Weather, Tintin in America,
Yes.
which is Caleb's, and then we go back to mine for the ones that I assume was together, Spider-Man and Power Pack.
Yeah. Not there are a bunch of Spider-Man and Power Packs.
I think it was the first
assume.
one. I believe it was the first
Yeah.
one, 2007-ish publication.
Well, I mean, there probably were some in the 80s when the Power Pack were invented, but
There's only two Spider-Man and Power Pack series.
okay,
So
maybe not.
this was the first one. There was a more
Yeah.
recent one. Yeah, there's a lot to discuss, and then not much at the same time.
So we're gonna kind of quick fire through these, I assume, starting with Storm and Spider-Man Change the Weather.
Spider-Man Team Up, Storm Change the Weather. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Little backstory for this one. Not even my personal backstory. The publication backstory. Don't mess with it. It never goes well.
I want to credit the artists.
Oh, okay. So it is published by Spotlight Books, who specifically commission comics from publishers to make copies for libraries and schools. So this was specifically made for schools, and it kind of shows.
Yeah, it was written by Todd DeZago and drawn by Valentino Delandro, which are two names I've never heard of before. But,
It's an issue, but it's collected in hardback because, grimy kids with their hands, you got to make sure this comic's readable for a bunch of people. So plot synopsis, how quick fire can I do this? Ready, steady, go. Storm is doing the X-Men thing. Spider-Man's doing the Spider-Man thing when all of a sudden Rogue is being bullied by some kids. Rogue is not Rogue yet. She is just nameless girl. Spider-Man saves her from the bullies, but her glove gets ripped and he offers his glove, but it sets off the Rogue event where she accidentally touches him, and now she's on a power trip. Then she jumps onto Storm and gets her powers, and then Storm and Spider-Man have to team up to stop Rogue, and they do very quickly, and that's it.
yeah, and then Storm takes Rogue back to Professor X. And
No. She leaves because
she says she's going to.
Yeah, well, no, she says, "Hey, Spider-Man, can you take her? Because I got to go fix all these storms that have happened."
Yes, that is true. Anyway, she gets Professor X involved, and then she says like Rogue Thunderstorm, and then Rogue
she sees there's a newscaster saying there's some rogue thunderstorms in the New York area, and Rogue gives the creepiest look in the entire Rogue, huh? That
right.
image has been ingrained in my head ever since I read this in like middle school, like 5th grade or something like that.
Cool. The thing with Storm having to change, like balance the weather back, that's a cool thing. I'm done talking about this comic.
I like my favorite moment is when Spider-Man offers Rogue his glove.
Yeah.
And he's like, he doesn't even question. He's like, chill. But like, here's my glove. We're all good.
Out. He doesn't.
Yeah,
understand
she's basically having a panic attack, but he's just like, it's all good. I can easily solve this, and it's very, very Spider-Man, and I like that a lot.
Both are very in line with their characterization in other comics, which makes it perfect for something like this that's supposed to draw new readers. The reason I don't have much to say about it is like you could walk me in front of like a very nice piece of art, and I could tell you like. My impressions about it, like what I think of the form and stuff. Then you can show me a stick figure, and there's really not too much I can say other than, yes, that is a stick figure. So yes, this is a Spider-Man and Storm team up book. It's great at serving the purpose it's supposed to serve.
It's meant to get kids into comics. It's meant to, here's a copy, here's if you don't know anything, but you recognize these people because their movies are popular. The art changes wildly. Whenever they do a close up on a face and they're trying to express emotion, that's when I feel like it gets a little wonky. But like that first opening shot of Storm flying around, she's like feeling the majesty of the breeze or whatever. I think she looks fine there. And then there's other parts where it's just like, what happened? Oh man, when she's like daydreaming about the X-Men, and it shows Wolverine and Professor X's face, his like face is melting. But it's like it's the most inoffensive comic book.
Yeah.
Like it's show this to your kid. Like they'll probably enjoy this.
Yeah, it serves the function it's supposed to do. Like how the first dose of the drug is always given out for free. This is like Marvel's first dose of the drug. And if I had read it as a kid, I would have gotten hooked on either Spider-Man or the X-Men.
The librarian just, hey kids, you want some Marvel?
Truly, we need to do a war on libraries.
Your book.
Yeah! Sorry, I think I may have scared some people there. Also, got from the library all the time. I could walk into the library right now and probably blindfold walk to the bookshelves where all the Tintin books were.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because we every library trip we got one of the 9 volumes.
Mine's been renovated too much to where I could do that.
Well,
Couldn't do that
I've also
anymore.
not been in the Nashville Library since COVID, so I doubt they're doing too much renovating. But yes, it's Tintin in America. It was the 3rd Tintin book released by the artist Hergé. However, it is the first one that was published in America because the first 2 were deemed too offensive to be published. Well, at least the second one was. The 2 were Tintin and the Soviets, and then Tintin at the Congo.
Okay, I understand why now.
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yes, but so we got them in these collections that collect 3, but we only read the one that was America because that one is most likely the first one I read, since it's the first one.
Oh, so you're not 100% sure.
I mean, it's the one I have the clearest memories.
Okay. Why don't you do your synopsis of this?
Yeah, so Tintin is a boy reporter from Belgium, and he comes over to 1930s era, because this was written in the 30s, so 1930s era Chicago, and he's going to help clean up the streets of gangsters. He even has a run-in with Al Capone. But basically, from the point he gets off his train to the point where he succeeds in cleaning up the streets, there's a very simple thing of gangster wants him dead. They do this death trap. He sometimes escapes, sometimes out of his own ingenuity, oftentimes out of pure luck. They end up chasing this one gangster, Bobby Smiles, into Indian territory. He has some run-ins with a Native American tribe out there. And then he ends up at a meat processing plant at one point.
It goes all over
Yes.
the place.
One of the things, if I was being less generous to Tintin, which I should be often, Hergé oversimplifies cultures every time he visits one. And so I think you can see that here, where he goes from 1930s gangster to cowboy and Indian.
Yeah. I appreciate the pattern that this have of run in with something. Bad thing happens, get out of it. Funny stuff usually ensues. I appreciate the pattern and how consistently some of these jokes hit.
Yeah. And it was released in shorter chunks in magazines.
Yeah, it very much
So-
looks like newspaper comics.
Yeah, so it's very much like a cliffhanger to get you to read the next one. And there was definitely some humor in this that I thought still held up. Some other humor that doesn't, but it was funnier than I expected it. And I also, maybe this is because I grew up watching the Adam West Batman stuff. I like when sheer luck gets you out of a death trap.
The sheer luck ones were ones like say the train sequence
Yes.
when he almost gets run over. I think that one was where I was starting to wane on the luck ones, where I was like, okay, that's just
Yeah,
it's a comic book. I'm not gonna from the 30s where I'm like, the plot convenience there. But
some of the later Tintins do have more involved plots and stuff. I think reading this, there are some kind of just sloppy moments, and you can tell that Hergé is still a very young writer artist. I think there are also some very sloppy moments in the art.
see, I think that cheap newspaper style almost gives it a lot of benefit because there is a lot of forward motion with it. We're just chugging along. We're gonna keep going. There's not much stopping, and I appreciate that a lot. Great joke. I just completely changed gears, but it popped in my head, so I wanted to say it before I forget. Great joke is when he's like, "I've caught the mobsters. All right, we're the police. We're definitely the police. We're gonna take you back." And they go into the little room, and it's a little sign that says police, and they take it off, and it's just like Mafia Incorporated or something goofy along those lines.
And there's something later where it's like the syndicate of unionized gangsters or something. It's fun. I just have a lot of memories of this. Like I could probably tell you like beat for beat what is going to happen up until the meat plant stuff. I didn't remember that, but the early stuff with Al Capone and then Bobby Smiles, then the Cowboys and Indians just are impressed into my mind. There is a lot of big not a lot of, but especially compared to other comics in the Tintin line, there's a lot of like big blocks of text,
Yeah.
especially at the end.
Yeah.
That last, like, there's like this whole news report, newsreel thing that's explaining what Tintin has done. That, it's fine now reading it. I think that later they get better about those. As a kid who started like looking at the pictures for these before I could read, I hated those because I was like, I can't infer what's going on.
Yeah, you told me you read this without knowing how to read at that point. You could just follow with the pictures, which I think is to its benefit. It does. Yeah. It's a very visual, just good visual storytelling for how simple it is.
Yeah, and super simple lines, character designs, layouts.
Great. I mean, good first comic, I think. So for a kid, just fun. Maybe not today. Like there is some like problematic stuff, but okay, it's the 30s. It's even farther removed where this is almost 100 years ago now. We're 10 years from this being 100 years old.
Yeah, I know.
Like I'm like, okay, this was radically different.
I was wondering how much you were going to get into that because this is one of the least racist Tintin comics, but still very when it gets to the Native Americans.
This isn't a God Loves Man Kills that was written in the 80s, where they're trying to make a point and it kind of just misses. This is something from the 30s, where it's man.
I will say this though, like even at the time, these like some stuff with Tintin was controversial.
Oh yeah,
I mean, well yeah, and Hergé was writing for a ultra conservative Catholic newspaper when he was doing this. And then after that paper got shut down by the Nazis, he started working at a newspaper ran by the Nazis. So he had some controversial things about him. And of course, those other two aren't printed anymore. You say this would be a first comic. I love Tintin and it's like kind of ingrained in me. I don't think I'd let my kid read Tintin though.
I mean,
maybe some of the later stories that are focused more on like pirate treasure and going to the moon.
Yeah, maybe not Tintin in America specifically, but just if all Tintin, I've never read Tintin aside from this. If it follows this kind of general format, it's got a very Peanuts, Calvin and Hobbes, just very simple things where it's just
at least the 3 in this volume where he goes to the Middle East, Egypt and China. I probably wouldn't. The Chinese one, interestingly enough, aren't Chinese stereotypes; those are Japanese stereotypes because it's about Imperial Japan's invasion into China. But yeah, so I very important comic to me growing up. I think it's fine sitting on the shelf. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. I think there are better later Tintin comics.
It's a nostalgia collector's piece for you. It's like, this is where we came from.
Yeah, look at very much so. And very, very influential on how I read comics.
Yeah. The third and final one, I think, is me and Caleb's favorite of what we read. I don't know about him. I really enjoyed my time with Spider-Man and Power Pack. Don't have a physical edition for this. I want one after rereading how good it was.
Yeah.
We read it digitally. But man. So Spider-Man and Power Pack was written by Mark Sumerak and drawn by what I assume is a group, Giru Hiru. I assume an Asian group, probably Japanese or something. Because this art is very, I wouldn't say terribly anime inspired, but just bouncy, very cartoon.
Yes,
like lots of energy.
Yeah. Which is fitting for the Power Pack.
Oh yeah. I absolutely adored this comic. So the plot of this is the Power Pack has moved to New York. They're like, man, we're no names here. We gotta get ourselves on the street. Okay, let's tackle Spider-Man villains, I guess.
Do we want to explain who the Power Pack is, since they're kind of a more obscure?
Sure, you do that.
Yeah, so they were created by Louise Simonson, and they are 4 siblings who, through alien encounters, get powers. One of them can affect gravity.
That is 0G.
0G. One of light speed can travel at light speed. What is the other girl's name? Energizer. She's the youngest. She can make energy bolts. And then Mass Master.
Yeah.
Who can
turn into a cloud.
And shrink himself. Like he can affect mass, but he mainly turns into
a cloud a lot of the time.
And he's more or less, I think, the main character of the first
he's
story.
kind of the leader of the group.
And then Energizer is the main character of the second.
Mm-hmm.
But kid characters, very fun. And explicitly probably the youngest kid superheroes in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, they kind of make a point about that. So they come to New York, and they start trying to tackle crime. They're like, we're going on patrol. That's what heroes do. And they run into Sandman. And then Spider-Man shows up because it's like, this is his turf. These are his villains. Let me help out the young crew. I wouldn't say hijinks ensue, but they just kind of keep tagging along for stuff, intervening.
You kind of get the idea that Spider-Man is, a little bit like, okay. And he's not really in on the fun just yet.
Yeah. The first 2 issues mainly tackle with the introduction, and then Spider-Man is fighting the Vulture for a potion of eternal youth, and it turns Spider-Man back into
a
child.
Yeah.
So he goes to the Power Pack for help because I'll be embarrassed if I tell anyone else about this.
Yes. And it turns the Vulture into Matthew Mercer.
Vulture gets hot.
Yeah, it's a great head of hair. And then eventually they have to fight Sandman again, and just Spider-Man learns the value of these kid heroes and they become friends. There's a nice little fashion montage. And then the second story is a fashion designer gets the Venom symbiote and he turns them into dresses. But then the dresses,
turn the models into Venoms.
Yeah, Venoms. So the Power Pack has to fight them. But one of the Venoms got on Energizer. So in the next issue, it's basically the Black Suit Saga, but with Energizer. Who goes on to lead a very successful Sinister Six.
6.5.
Yeah,
that's why it's successful.
Yeah.
They got that extra half.
Up until, of course, the part where they succeed.
And then fail.
Well, I mean, eventually they succeed.
Well,
I'm talking about the heroes.
I thought you were talking about the Sinister Six.
Yeah, not the Sinister Six.
I was like, well, then they fail.
Yeah. But yeah, very fun stories. I really like Spider-Man in these. With one exception, which we'll talk about. And I think the kids are all, they feel like kids enough, a little bit, aged up at certain points.
I mean, they have the responsibility factor where it's like, yeah we're heroes. We kind of know, like there's a sense of growing up, I guess, that comes with that.
Yeah. And, but just fun to be around. They have fun banter. They're not annoying, which is,
I adore just how fun this is. Yeah. This is a blast to read. I think almost all the humor hits. Nothing that's sticking out where I'm like, that was bad or something.
The one joke, nothing that sticks out that's bad. Yeah. I don't think so.
Just super fun limited series. Again, great. I understand why I loved it so much as a kid. Just the art is nice and bouncy and what a kid would be used to, not the super I almost want to say like masculine drawings that we're used to, just detailed drawings of comics that we're used to.
Yeah.
Just great.
And more depth than either of our other 2 stories. This has some character development and stuff. Not a lot, but enough, and that's fun.
Yeah, it very much feels like any era of Spider-Man after a certain point where it's like, yeah, he could be anywhere from like probably 25 that he is in like continuity this time, or like an aged Spider-Man, or just, maybe he was the PS4 Spider-Man who's been through some stuff and he's like, yeah, I had that alien black suit at one point. I remember how bad that went.
I think these are great ciphers for kids because they are just as much of a fan of the superheroes of Marvel as anyone reading it would be. So like they're going around in like Fantastic Four pajamas and they have like a Captain America poster on their wall and stuff. And of course they're fighting with Spider-Man, which is like every kid's dream.
Yeah. I like the Spider-Boy stuff a lot too. I like that suit a lot. And it's such a silly reason. Man, Wolverine's never going to let me live this down if he finds out. I can't tell Aunt May. I don't want her to raise a child again.
Yeah, no, it's fun.
And then just the entire montage of them fighting like every Spider-Man villain. Yeah. Great fun.
Your favorite episode of Justice League, the cartoon, is where they all get turned into
kids? Yes, it is.
Do you think that's just a story trope you like?
I don't know. Maybe it's just kids can so easily be annoying, especially aging down characters into that, because it's like, oh, we got to make sure to show their kitty. They're going to be really annoying or something like that. But so when they're just fun, like when they capture that enjoyment of being a kid and not so much and
the fantasy and stuff like that. Yeah, this is not a comic that's concerned with like, oh no, these kids are getting into dangerous super situations, right? Like this is
wouldn't it be rad to like
it's
have
a wish,
these powers?
It's a wish fulfillment thing in a really fun way.
Yeah.
My one complaint about Spider-Man is he keeps he keeps dispersing villains and then not really worrying about it. So he like blows away Sandman and he's like, the Sand will come back eventually, but who cares? And then like similarly, he kind of blasts Venom with audio and he tells Human Torch, it's like, yeah, I mean, we got Eddie Brock, but man, that Venom symbiote's going to come back. A very small problem, but one that amused me.
My qualm with this is at the fashion show, I guess he's just, man, loving how Mary Jane looks in that dress. And even when it shapeshifts into clearly in a symbiote-like fashion into another dress, he's like, that's not weird.
Well, unstable molecules are a thing in the Marvel universe, I guess.
I assume this is 616 Peter, who has dealt with Venom enough times to be like, and symbiotes at this point to be like,
yeah.
But that's not the real star of today's show. We got one more. I didn't read this, but this was attached to, I guess, the separate release of Spider-Man Power Pack.
This is our dessert after, the meal.
Civil Wards.
Mini Marvels, Civil Wards, written by the same creator.
Mark Simmerek.
Yeah, and let me look up the artist real quick. It's kind of this fun newspaper cartoon style.
Yeah, very Calvin and Hobbes-esque, I think.
Chris Giarusso. Very Calvin and Hobbes. And
humor, too.
Gosh. A lot happens in
There's
this.
a plot.
Arguably more happens in these 4 mini issues than in anything else we read for this episode.
So the plot of this is after Civil War, Spider-Man has been revealed to be Peter Parker. They are one and the same. So Jameson fires him.
Even though Peter has been walking around the Daily Bugle offices in the Spider-Man suit.
He never takes it off.
And his job is a paper route too, because all of the superheroes in this are children.
Oh, are they? I didn't catch. I thought it was just stylized. They're all super small. So he has to get another job. And so he ends up babysitting for the Powers family, for the Power Pack, who are babies right now. And man, jokes and hilarious hijinks ensued. I was laughing out loud at this.
Oh yeah,
which I never
really
do with comics.
He takes them to the playground and they're playing in the sandbox, and the sandbox turns into Sandman. They go to another playground where there is Iron Man you have to sign up, you have to register to be in it, and then Captain America comes up. It's like, no, you are infringing on the liberties of children. Oh, do you want to say the joke that we both really like with Gwen?
Yeah. Spidey goes to Gwen's house to be like, hey, can you help out? She's like, I don't know. I can't trust that you never told me that you were Spider-Man. Now let me go trust Harry and Norman, who have never lied to me and never do anything to hurt me. Both of them dressed up like Green Goblin.
Yeah. It's great. It's just really funny. And like constant jokes. And
they're all hits.
This guy understands not only Marvel, but contemporary to the Power Pack stuff coming out Marvel.
And to like modern Marvel. Like this guy was ahead of his time and just the jokes he was writing and how many of these jokes we're still having.
It is so like, I just want to name off jokes that I find funny because a lot of them are in the background. Like there's this one where Kid Luke Cage is like,
I was gonna bring this one up.
He's like, how would you solve this problem? I'd go back to J. Jonah Jameson and tell him I'm bulletproof, but I'm not bulletproof. I'm saying what I would do.
And then he goes, Peter's getting his job back at the Daily Bugle after another joke that I guess we'll get into because it's referencing. And then he goes to Luke Cage asks for a job and he's like, what are you, bulletproof? And he's like, yeah, you're hired.
I don't want to there's a joke that is so funny that follows up of the big joke I think you're talking about that I don't even want to spoil it here.
The new newspaper article?
It comes right after that.
Okay, well the new newspaper article is they keep showing up the Spider-Man unmasked thing. It's like everybody knows now. So Cap's idea to get him back into the good limelight is to make another one. And it's Spider-Man remasked. No one knows who he is. Right after Daredevil and Iron Fist have been having. Oh, okay. Should I not say it?
Go for it. Whatever.
Right after Spider-Man and Iron Fist Daredevil and Iron Fist have been like, I got it. We'll dress up as Spider-Man. So like, it can't be you clearly. So there's and right as the Spider-Man remask thing happens, Jameson's looking out the window. It's like, oh look, there goes Daredevil and Iron Fist as they're just dressed up as Spider-Man,
like identical to Spider-Man, and he just knows who they are. It's really good.
I can't believe how funny it was. And it was one of those things where I got to back issues and I was like, oh, these probably aren't going to be good. No. Amazing.
Yeah, really fun. And like, I'm not sure how much a kid would get the meta jokes.
I don't think they would. Maybe I did read these and they just flew over my head that much that I didn't get it. Because I also didn't know about comics too much at the time.
Yeah. But like, I think that for maybe the parent who was buying these for their kids, before I would hand the thing over, I'd flip through and read the mini
Jimmy,
Marvel.
let me. I don't know why I was an evil villain there. That was supposed to be a laughing at the comic joke.
Because they're taking the comic away from a child.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, those are our first comics. I guess we should. I bet we would have the same ranking for all of them. Mini Marvels at the top, then Power Pack, then for me, Tintin and Change the Weather are on the same thing. It's just Change the Weather doesn't have offensive stereotypes, so it bumps up. Yeah, no, I think this was fun. This was a fun exercise.
It was a pretty fun trip down memory lane, and surprising how good to great some of these things are compared to even stuff I like nowadays, where I'm like, man, even stuff I like nowadays probably like doesn't quite match up to how good I think some of this stuff is.
Yeah, there were things to appreciate about all of them, even if it is just like the purpose of getting kids into comics.
Mm-hmm. So what do you have for me coming up next?
Well, let me go get it.
Oh boy, it's in a Hawaiian shirt. Is it Hawaiian themed?
No, this is me last minute remembering that I didn't come up with a gimmick. And I already used the gimmick for this one on another comic.
Oh, next week we will be reading Bombshells.
Yeah.
Hey, this is another early comic for you.
Yeah, when I started buying comics like in trades, this was one of the first ones I picked up.
Cool. I know nothing about this, but I see the designs of people all the time.
Yes, it is. I will say this. The designs are the clear standout of it. It was a digital only comic. I think it's
it
fun,
was?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was a fun gimmick and stuff, but I definitely understand why the designs are the things people remember.
So as always, if you've liked what you've heard, make sure to rate us on whatever you're listening to us to. I'm going to repeat that because I fumbled hard. Rewind. Make sure to rate us on whatever platform it is you're listening to us on. Man, I'm not going to be able to nail that no matter what.
Rate and review the show.
Yep. That's the gist of it. If you have your first comic and you're like, I want to hear these guys talk about it, email it to us at allnew52podcast@gmail.com. We'll take a gander. Next week, Bombshells, World War II stuff. Ladies, you love them.
Yep.
Bye.